This is the Uprising Revival channel. Welcome to today's show. The major headline that we're seeing over and over again, remember, always look for these patterns. If they're using the same codes, they're using the same words verbatim, like we heard with the R, 11th day of September. One of the patterns I'm seeing right here is that, quote, the Middle East is on the verge of the abyss. This, of course, according to the United Nations, or you might call them what they are, the United World Order, because that is where the New World Order really emerges from or comes from. They are part of the enabling system of uniting globalism and convincing people that this is what's in the best interest of mankind. None of these people, of course, are elected. They're put in these positions, and we somehow have given them power to rule over us because they really rule over all of the governments. They really rule over all of their hand-picked puppets that have been put in place. And, of course, if any of these actual political leaders were actually leaders and nationalists and actually defended the country they're supposed to represent, the people they're supposed to represent, then they would have done away with the United Nations. But of course, we need global policing so we can herd in our global world order. So look at that headline. It's a very interesting headline, right? Middle East on the verge of the abyss. Now, in the Bible, in the end times prophecies, there's lots of mentions of the abyss, right? In the book of Revelation, chapter 9, the fifth angel sounded his trumpet, and I saw a star that had fallen from the sky to the earth. The star was given the key to the shaft of the abyss. When he opened the abyss, smoke rose from it, like the smoke from a gigantic furnace. The sun and sky were darkened by the smoke from the abyss. Also in Revelation, chapter 11, verse 7, and when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them. So we hear the bottomless pit, the abyss. This could have biblical ramifications, of course, about what is going on over there and what is to come and who is to rise out of the abyss, right? Now, in biblical terms, when we hear the abyss, in layman's terms, I should say, one of the first things most people talk about is the beast rising out of the abyss. This has a lot to do as well with the phoenix rising, which is a symbol we commonly see the occult use, right? We see this phoenix rising all the time. We see it right out of the trade centers. Right next to it, they actually have what they call the oculus, which is the phoenix rising. I mean, you could see it in sculptures. They do it all the time. They show us this, and they always use it in their teachings. And they always show us this stuff in movies and logos, in music videos, the phoenix rising. That is exactly what this is referencing. So in addition to that headline, I want to talk about a few things that I've already mentioned in regards to the coming of World War III, which, again, this is prophesized, but this is also blueprint. This is something that they have had in the works for a long time. We go back, as most of you remember, I covered Albert Pike's letter a few days ago. I'll reread it towards the end of the video. But I want to read something else that a good friend of mine sent to me, and it just has kind of been sitting in my head. I've been thinking about it over and over and rereading it, and I want to read it to everybody out there because this is from a letter that was written and given to no other than Karl Marx, who, again, we see Karl Marx's handprint on all of this disgusting garbage that we're all putting up with on a day-to-day basis here in America, right? This taking of this end of private property, like this mindset that everything that's yours is mine, right? This is all goes back to Marxism, which, again, goes into communism, and this really all goes back to these same specific people. This is a letter from a man named Baruch Levy to Karl Marx, written in 1928. Quote, the Bagel people as a whole will be its own messiah. It will attain world dominion by the dissolution of other races, by the abolition of frontiers, the annihilation of monarchy, and by the establishment of a world republic in which the Bagels will everywhere exercise the privilege of citizenship. In this new world order, the children of Bagelville will furnish all the leaders without encountering opposition. The governments of the different peoples forming the world republic will fall without difficulty into the hands of the Bagels. It will then be possible for the Bagel rulers to abolish private property and everywhere to make use of the resources of the state. Thus will the promise of the blank, blank, blank mud, the book that they read that I cover many times, thus will the promise of the mud be fulfilled, in which is said that when the messianic time has come, the Bagels will have all the property of the whole world in their hands. Now think about this letter. This is from 1928. And think about all the stuff that I've been covering, all the stuff that you've all seen going on around us where we're all pulling our hair out, right? And we're seeing this stuff, how they're letting people run amok, how they're letting people squat in people's lawns, how they're abolishing private property, right? And they're using psychological weapons on people like reparations, etc. Oh, you deserve this. You should have people's private property, etc. All of these things that we're seeing, and we all look towards the Democratic Party, right? That's what everybody out there sees is like, oh man, these Democrats, they're out of control. They've been indoctrinated with this quote unquote Marxism, which is really just bagel communism is what it is in a nutshell, because it all ties back to these specific people. Now think about some of the other words in that specific article that I read. In this New World Order, the children of Bagelville will furnish all the leaders without countering opposition. Who is the only person that you can't counter in today's world that we live in, that you can't say anything bad about, and even the church is afraid to speak up against, right? They've indoctrinated, they've beaten this into you. And really, part of the reasoning for the school system, not just, of course, there's all these other reasons that we think of with why we all went to school, right? And of course, that had nothing to do with what they told us about learning and being educated and going and getting a job, right? There was a few things. Of course, we know about taxing women, right? Getting women into the workforce, but mainly to get the children away from their parents and into the school so they can indoctrinate them with a fake history of lies. And what was the number one thing that everybody had to go through in the schooling system? You went through it in history class every year. Some years in history class, you might learn about some other things, but it always still go back to this main story of that war that took place and what it was about. And what did they do? They garnered sympathy. They built up sympathy. They built it up so you, in your mind, without even realizing it subconsciously, that you couldn't question these people. Oh, that these people were victims. Oh, these people, what they've gone through. We have to do everything we can to protect these people because everybody just seems to be attacking these people for no reason. Over and over and over, that's what they told us, right? Without ever once questioning or thinking to ourselves, well, what was the reason behind it? Was it just the way that they looked? Was it because they're naturally cheapskates? Huh? Was it because of those things? Was it because of an arrogance? Well, those things do tie into it, obviously, if you deal with some of these people. But no, it was because of this specifically. And all other time periods when people knew that this was what the goal of those people were, the people rose up. There was revolutions against this. This is now the perfect time for this, which is why I don't think that we stand a chance against stopping it. Because look around. Look at the mind control. Without technology, we would have been able to get people to wake up to this. With the technology, the dumbing down has never, ever been like this in human history. Think about what people used to rise up and risk their lives for and lay their lives down for. This would be the ultimate cause for people to stand up and fight against. And a lot of the wars, this is what they were standing up against. And this is what they were fighting for. You think people now would fight against this? They've convinced people that this is what the world needs to be. No private property, right? Because we look at each other. People look at the guy, oh, that guy's got money, you know. They don't think about, oh, does he work hard? Does he, you know, not sit around on his phone, smoking grass every day, sitting there drinking every day? Does he work and try to support himself for his family versus somebody else who has no work ethic, which sits on their phone 24/7. They look at everybody else and they go, well, they shouldn't have that. I should have that. And I don't have that because of my skin color. Or I don't have that because of my gender or what I like to do in the bedroom, right? They've convinced everybody of this. Thus, they're convincing everybody to go along with this global world order. And these events that have to happen are to bring this in, right? Think about this other line in there. It will attain world dominion by the dissolution of other races. Right? Think about all this stuff racially that they've baited all of us into. This is them at work doing this to us. All of us, of all skin colors, of all genders, whatever your preferences in the bedroom, they've worked everybody nonstop. They've also convinced a lot of people to be of a certain, or to have a certain preference in a bedroom through the mind control that they've used. And they don't even realize it. They've done things like, you're born this way. All this type of propaganda, all these types of seeds they plant in people's heads, this all comes from them. They are destroying human beings morally. They are destroying people's will to even fight at this point because they're wearing them down. This ties also into gang stalking, which I've covered. Right? What do we hear about the blueprint of gang stalking? You might remember I covered it years ago. I'll put that video. I think it might be up on the website Uprising Revival, but I'll put it up if you haven't seen it. Right? Because a lot of people are like, yeah, I go through this gang stalking stuff, and they don't know where the origins of it come from. Okay, the origins of gang stalking come specifically from these people, and the goal of it is to wear you down. They want you to act a certain way when they do these things instead of you standing up against it. Like, if somebody's standing out in your driveway trying to intimidate you, you walk up to them and hand them a bagel and say, how's your day going? You enjoying staring at me all day and night? That's great. Have a good one. You could psychologically mess with these people back, but they are the masters of this because they're the ones who literally, created the blueprint for all of these things like MK Ultra, et cetera, working hand in hand, or let's just not even say working hand in hand, because the intel agencies all really tie back to what we call the Mossad. Okay, the same, this same specific group that I just mentioned, the Mossad, also has ties to hummus, the food, right? So when you look at the origins of all this, it goes back to these people. Thus, when we look at history and we see how these people were constantly under attack, it's because of this, right? How often do I talk about how they're meddling in our lives? They constantly just want to be in our homes, our bedrooms. They want to raise your kids. This is in their teachings, and this is literally how they feel. So what they've done is they've implemented this in all of the mind control and convinced half of our country that that is the way that we need to live. They've taken a political party that people have allegiance to now, and they've convinced them that all these things would make the world a better place. They don't realize that they're going to be slaves to these people, and the rest of us are trying to fight against it. But the problem is that the church is sucked into this thinking as well, because while many conservatives don't support all these crazy liberal ideologies, right? What do they support? Bagelville, right? And then they throw things at you in defense of Bagelville when people like me try to explain what's really occurring here, who they truly are. They say that it's some type of replacement theology. That's what I keep hearing. Oh, replacement theology. You're talking about replacing them with you in the Bible, as if like I want, it's just as if I'm saying this stuff trying to say, we're the righteous, we're the this or that. I'm trying to point out who the true enemy is, right? Because when you hijack something, when you say you're something that you're not, and the Bible tells you about that, who does everybody interpret that as? Oh, right, nobody even thinks of that because nobody reads the book of Revelation because it's too dark and scary for them. And they think that anybody that does end times, talk. What do you think, like, even part of a lot of the stuff that we saw with Lori Dayball or whatever her name was? Remember that story? I even covered it with the preacher and the wife, and they killed the family members, and they were all talking about end times prophecies and that they're chosen, et cetera, which goes into like Mormon and Jehovah, a lot of other stuff. People automatically have seeds planted to just stay away from the book of Revelation. And at the same time, when we see, churches that only talk about certain things, they stay away from prophecy as well, because they don't want to look at the prophecy, because the prophecy of what the world looks like is frightening, right? But God's equipped all of us who are here right now to be here for this right now. God put us here for a reason. As much as a lot of us don't like it and don't want to be here for it, look, we're here now. We have to suck it up. Men have to be men. Women have to be women. And we have to deal with what's coming. And the Bible tells us of this, but also tells us of our rewards. It tells us of what we need to do, right? And this doesn't end until, people stop spreading the word. So we need to keep spreading the word so that people out there could be aware and not be deceived, right? The Bible speaks of great deception. What do people think the great deception is? I mean, there's many deceptions going on, but look at this blueprint, right? Everything I just read to you in here. Again, let me just read it one more time. The Bagel people as a whole will be its own Messiah. It will attain world dominion by the dissolution of other races, by the abolition of frontiers, the annihilation of monarchy, right? The end of government structure, and by the establishment of a world republic in which the Bagels will everywhere exercise the privilege of citizenship. So they'll be, it'll be their world order. In this new world order, the children of Bagelville will furnish all the leaders without encountering opposition. Who's the only person you can't oppose? Who are the only people that you can't say a word about? And if you do, you're thrown in prison in some countries. Here in America, you're just shamed into the ground, except for those with backbones who don't take their canceling and don't take their shaming, people like me. The governments of the different peoples forming the world republic will fall without difficulty into the hands of the Bagels. It will then be possible for the Bagel rulers to abolish private property and everywhere to make use of the resources of the state. Thus will the promise of the mud be fulfilled, in which is said that when the messianic time has come, the Bagels will have all the property of the whole world in their hands, right? And then, so how do we get to those points? Well, then we could look directly at the other thing that I read the other day about Albert Pike and his 1871 letter about World War III. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agentur of the Illuminati between the political Bagelists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam and political Bagelism mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. It's right in there. So the blueprint for World War III, do you not see this stuff going on around us, right? Even that line about how the world will be divided on the issue. So what are we seeing? The mainstream media is promoting it, showing us this. They don't need to show us the two sides of it, right? They're just showing us, oh, there's riots for pro here. There's riots for pro there. Every single news station, I'm sure you've seen it, has covered it. It's going on in cities across America. It's going on in London. It's going on around the world. Cities divided. It's another dividing mechanism when everyone should be united against the quote-unquote state of Bagelville. Not the bagel people, the state of Bagelville. That's another key word that people just don't seem to understand, because a lot of the Christians who are here who are yelling and screaming at me about replacement ideology. Oh yeah, why don't you go listen to even a lot of quote-unquote rabies out there, a lot of people who do follow the Torah, who speak out against the state of Bagelville because they know what it is. Because when I'm talking about this, I'm not saying every single person. I'm not saying your next door neighbor even has a clue about these books. I'm saying about the world government. I'm saying about the world leaders who present themselves as this. I'm not saying that every single person is a bad person. That's what they automatically hear. They don't hear any of the rabbis out there who are I'll just say the word rabbis out there who are talking about and speaking against the state of Bagelville. They don't listen to that. There's plenty of them. There's plenty of them that expose Bagelism, right? Because Bagelism is a political movement, and they have tied this in, and they've deceived Christians into supporting this. They're supporting a world government. They're supporting slavery. They're supporting the end of their rights. And eventually these people won't even realize that they're supporting the Antichrist. That's how dumbed down they are. And this is a fire needs to be lit in the church. A fire needs to be lit under these ministers, these pastors, these priests, whatever denomination somebody might be. Because remember, somebody could be in the Catholic Church, somebody could be in this church. It doesn't mean that they're not saved just because they're in this specific place. They have a relationship with Christ. They have salvation through Christ. But when they go and they look to these ministers and pastors for guidance or to hear the word, these are the things that are getting ignored. So when Christians get deceived, they won't even realize that they're worshiping Antichrist, right? The Bible says, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. It's right in there. So what do you think God's referring to? It's right in Hosea chapter 4, verse 6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge. I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me. Seeing you hast forgotten the law of thy God, I will also forget thy children. People out there, I mean, there's a lot of things, and it is scary to hear, to think about a lot of this stuff, because there's so much going on, and there's so much in Scripture that people just get overwhelmed, and they're overwhelmed by the world. We have to come out of the world, right? And who do we see put on a pedestal in the world? If Christians know, and a lot of Christians say, they're like, we're under attack. There's a lot of persecution going on within the church, right? Then why is the media, why are all these governments pro-Bagelville, right? What is the great deception? What are people being deceived into believing? And then people just automatically have this in place where they say, well, that's replacement theology. That's all I keep hearing. Oh, it's replacement theology. This guy's talking about replacement theology. I'm not talking about replacement theology. I'm watching the bloodlines, okay? Look at the bloodlines in there, in the Bible. What do you think it goes through each seed for? You think, you know what I mean? Like, you read the Bible, and people just pass over that. I know it's hard to read and it's hard to keep track, but I mean, it's in there for us to know who's a seed of who. Who are Canaanites? Who are seeds of Esau? Right? Who are seeds of children of Jacob? I mean, it's all in there. Who are children of Abraham? Right? Who is this and who is that? Who are deceivers? Then when the Bible flat out says, well, there's those who say they are and aren't, they're of the synagogue of Satan. Right there, it says it as clear as day. I mean, what do people literally think that means? It means that lukewarm Christians are literally these people in their teachings follow Lucifer. And then this filters into secret societies, right? This is what they're trying to normalize. Specifically, in that Albert Pike letter, what's also interesting to note is where it mentions Lucifer, right? It says, the people will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. Because it's been happening, it's just been hidden. Soon it'll be out in the open that world peace and all of this stuff comes through Antichrist, right? Oh yeah, it all comes, okay. We can put an end to all this stuff. Look at the little deceptions that we see going on with the other things that people don't talk about because they're really a meaningless group. But the Satanic Temple, the Church of Satan, etc. But really the Satanic Temple, which is a CIA-funded operation. These people don't, nobody looks and goes, how do they make money? How are they, running all these groups and they're going places and speaking and having events? Where do they make income from? Well, they're funded on our tax money, okay? And they sit there and they say what? Well, we don't worship the devil. So they're deceiving people, luring them into satanic worship. And think about when they come out, people just go, oh, I'm part of the Satanic Temple because this is about women's rights. This is about people who pack the fudge. It's about their rights, et cetera, et cetera. So they're luring them in, gatewaying them in with all these little, tickling their ears, so to speak, with all these things where people are like, yeah, that'll stop. I hate anger. I hate people speaking against it. Let's just all accept everything and be tolerant of everything. And then when these people find out that they're really worshiping Lucifer, they'll be so desensitized they won't care because they'll be like, yeah, well, Lucifer really it's a metaphor for all these wonderful things and peace. And people are like, okay, then I worship Lucifer. And that's how it works. It's deception. People are liars like their father, the devil. Specifically these people that I'm talking about, right? Who, again, are sinking the Middle East into the abyss. I mean, the wording and all this stuff is out there for people to see. Just people really want to ignore it. They don't want to accept what's actually going on. They don't want to look at this stuff. And these specific people, they just automatically want to support. Like, it's almost like the same people who tell me that I should be praying for, it's almost like they're telling me I should be praying for the devil, right? In this spiritual war, the enemy of ours has chosen. They know what's going on. They have read the Bible more so than many Christians, and they have chosen Lucifer as their God. They despise God. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong not to pray for these, specific people, but people constantly are just saying, well, love your enemies. Well, think about it, your enemy on that level, somebody who worships the devil, who sacrifices little ones, etc., versus you have your next door neighbor and you don't like one another. There's an enemy right there. Right? Oh, I don't like him. Okay, well, you don't put things in perspective, and you say, oh, okay, well, I don't need to be enemies with him. It's just my neighbor. I mean, what's really, overreacting, worldly things, right? Versus spiritual things. And we have people that constantly are like, yeah, pray for, I'm praying for Taylor Swift, etc., right? And think about that quote too, with about coming out into public view, like Taylor Swift coming out of the woods. How about all these musicians I've covered over the years that speak about coming out of the shadows, coming into light, right? All of this subliminal messaging, then all of these people that all the masses out there worship and idolize, including Christians, start luring you. They're luring you into the Luciferian doctrine with all of this universal love and tolerance. They're weakening the church. They're lukewarming it, literally. They're lukewarming the church. They're weakening people down into submission. All of these are tactics. It's just tactically being done. It's war on all of us. It's psychological war. Just as much as it is war of the flesh, it's psychological war. So these things have been written, right? You have the Pike letter. You have that thing that my friend sent me that I read to you, that letter directly to Karl Marx. Nobody looks at that and says, wow, it seems like it's just, these are the people that have been impressed. Things have happened to them throughout history. What do you think it's happened for? Because they're the ones who have constantly tried to establish this global government. And people out there who are like, I want globalism. I hear these idiots. They're like, I want globalism. It sounds great. I like going to other countries. I like other people's language. Yay, let's let people in. Let's not have borders, etc. They don't realize that it's enslavement of them. That things aren't going to be the way you think and perceive it. It's going to be total enslavement. EV cars, everything electrical, everything on Wi-Fi. They're going to shut your power off, etc., etc. They're going to treat you like prisoners on a global stage. Instead of being in a cell, your home is your cell. They're going to be listening to you. And if you say anything within your walls against these specific people, they'll show up there and they'll beat you and put you in jail or just end your life. That's what we're headed towards. People are like, that's over the top dramatic. Oh, yeah? You'll see. Just like the majority of us were right about what happened a couple of years ago with that outbreak we've been right about all this other stuff too, and we will continue to be. And I know the majority of you are right about it because we all think the same way. And we all talk about this stuff over on the website. So again, if you haven't joined the website, uprisingrevival.com, I have more content over there about what's going on, where I could use videos and et cetera, of what's going on over there, whether it's, I'm going to be doing one in the coming days on the concert over there that they claim was going on, where all these victims have them. They're actually releasing the footage. It couldn't be faker, couldn't be more staged. They're staging this. It's a staged war. It doesn't mean that people aren't dying. I'm not saying that. Of course there's casualties. They don't care about killing their own because a lot of these people aren't really their own, right? There's a difference between the certain books that certain people read and then other denominations of it, just like in the church. We have denominations in the church. There's denominations inside Bagelism that believe certain things. And I'm not talking about Zion. I'm talking about Judaism, okay? These people don't care about annihilating and wiping out anybody. So they're creating this war. They're making this war up as they're attacking from within. It's a war, like I've been saying for years, it's a war against civilians. All the governments of the world are forming and have formed a global government, and they're wiping out civilians. And we're next here in America, and everybody just continues to go, oh, it won't happen here. It's not going to, it is going to happen here. Take a look at how your government's behaving on both sides, left and right. And don't think it won't happen when Trump's put back in power, because it likely will. It likely will. Because look how many conservative Christians are getting led astray by all of this. I'll continue to cover the topic. I hope everyone out there is doing well. Really appreciate everybody who's over here, who's been following the channels. Now, make sure you sub to my other channel, United Uprising. I'm going to be uploading over there as well very, very soon. That channel is going through the approval process very soon as well. So make sure you check it out. I thank you guys for being here. Hope you're doing well. God bless all of you as always and your families.